Hello, I'm Morgan Risey, Liberal Democrat Councillor for Mitchett and Deepcut on Surrey Heath Borough Council. On this Remembrance Day, it is important that we extend our solidarity and support for the entire trans community. And as we remember those that we have lost and extend our support for those that are continuing to fight for fairness and equality, it is essential that we, as a society as a whole, are welcoming and open to those of all identities and none. Over the years, we have seen trans violence increase and the reporting of transphobic hate crimes increase as well. And as we move forward into a more open and tolerant society, it is essential that we remain an open and tolerant people. So on this day of remembrance, I wish to say that you have my support and that you will always be welcome where I am. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You're joined today by Molly and Jana.
Hi, good evening.
We've got a really special interview for you today. So, as you'll know, today is Trans Day of Remembrance, and that is a really emotional and powerful subject for so many, isn't it? It
Absolutely, yeah.
brings up a lot of different emotions depending on what you've experienced and what you've gone through. And it's one of those days that we should see through the year, but especially today, remembering people that have lost their lives and the difficulties and struggling that people suffer all around the world. And also to think about our own country and actually the suffering and the injustice that still happens here, but also the really positive things that happen in the UK and the steps that have been that have happened really to help transgender, non-binary and intersex people live a more equal life here. So I think it's really important to remember the steps that we've taken actually to better some of the lives here. So I think we're going to focus on that today, aren't we?
Absolutely, and at the same time, we obviously we know quite a lot of transgender people, but our friend Sarah, who we would like to bring on for you today and speak to her and her partner Reid, who is transgender, female to male, handsome, really handsome young man. And we'd like to bring them we'd like to bring you the interview with those two because their story is so interesting and so powerful. And it is to show you that as a trans person, you can live a very positive life too. So we're going to bring them on and have a little chat with them.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey.
Sarah. Hi, Reid.
Hey.
How are you doing? Yeah, we're all right.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. Surviving lockdown?
Yeah, well, we're in Wales, so we've actually just come out of our lockdown. So yeah, we are now out of lockdown. We went in before you, but we're out. We've still got some restrictions in place though, but we're both working, so we're still out and about and doing things, and the kids are still in school, so it's not a massive difference to us right now.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Trans Remembrance Day, because this is so important to show people how positive you can be. And I'm not trying to make the situation light or easy, because I'm sure it's been quite a journey for both of you. And we'd love to talk to you about it. So thank you so much for coming on with us.
Absolutely. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves to everyone?
So I'm Sarah. I am mother of 3 incredible children. I work in schools and I also work with horses. I volunteer for Pride in Surrey, and even though I have relocated to Wales, I am fortunate enough that they haven't quite gotten rid of me yet. And that's how I know Molly and Jana, who I miss dreadfully, but it's amazing to, thank goodness for technology, we can still stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm Reid. At the moment, I'm a residential support worker. I commute from here to Leicester at the moment. I'm hopefully going to get a job a bit more local ASAP, so that I don't have to keep commuting. But my background is sort of early education and special educational needs.
And so is it right that you guys kind of got together sort of during the COVID process or period?
So this time around, this time around, Reid got back in touch on your birthday.
On my birthday, yeah.
On can I tell a joke, please?
Yes.
So Reid's birthday is April 1st, and so it's April Fool's Day. So I would say it's an April Fool's because it was like, oh, it's a girl. Oh no, April Fool's is not. It's a boy. So that's I just think
that's
funny.
one joke.
It's
one
not,
joke.
yeah. Well, sorry, one. But yeah, so Reid got back in touch on April 1st, which was obviously really right at the peak of the original lockdown. Yeah, that only us would do that. I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we weren't able to meet up in person until the 28th of June, which of course is the anniversary of the Stonewall riots as well, which I kind of think is really cool.
That's really cool.
And the day when our friend Abby Kennelly's single came out too. So yeah, we weren't actually able to meet in person until the 28th of June, but everything was done like the rest of the world, and meetings and everything else. Everything was done on screens, and so was the start of this chapter of our relationship as well.
Good old FaceTime.
Good old FaceTime.
Fantastic. You keep talking about this chapter. So was there a chapter before this chapter?
Yeah. So we actually met it was 2017, wasn't it, that we met? So we met back in 2017, which was before I came out as trans, and before obviously I started transitioning and anything like that. So
we were both lesbians at this point,
yeah,
basically.
So Sarah knew the female me and the lesbian me,
and fell in love with the lesbian person too.
Yeah. And now obviously things are very different this time around.
A little bit. So we were the circumstances just worked against us back in 2017, and Reid, as was then always the one who got away, and yeah, things just it wasn't possible for us to really be together back then, and it was pretty hideous, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, there were a lot of tears.
I can imagine.
But then when Reid got back in touch, I had heard kind of through the grapevine that Reid had transitioned, and yeah, so it wasn't it's not like as if it was a surprise when this alien person popped up and sort of started messaging me again. So yeah, I was aware, but kind of brought up a lot of questions from there really about how I felt about that, I guess.
I say that must have brought up a lot of feelings about how you identified yourself as well, and how you're attracted to different people. I think we've said in the past, and I've seen you speaking in the past, about how you fall in love with a person. It's not just about a sex or a gender.
And absolutely. Sorry, it's a very important thing to talk about, isn't it? So, because I met you as a lesbian, Sarah, but to be honest, I don't know why you're laughing.
Reid said me too.
Yeah.
That was the thing as well. Like when I got back in touch, like I always knew that I liked Sarah in that way. But obviously, getting back in touch as a trans man, it was a bit like, well, obviously, I know that there's still the interest there, but I'm also aware that you identify as a lesbian and therefore you are attracted to females. So it was never like I'm going to start talking to you and just see. It was just it was nice to be back in touch. And
you didn't think I'd
no, and the feelings were still there, but I wasn't like straight away like, oh, let's get together, because
you didn't think
I knew you were a lesbian.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and it all needs time, because I'm sure Sarah needed a lot of time to get her head around it, because it's not an easy thing if you identify
about time, 5-10 minutes.
I think the thing that kind of hit me, especially when we met up, so obviously on FaceTime it's one thing, but then when we did meet up in person, because I'm a single person in a single adult household, I was allowed to, when restrictions went to the point where single people could meet up with people outside of a household, that was when we took that opportunity, because I was a single adult household. And so doing things on FaceTime is one thing, but then like when I actually saw him in person, it was like it was a little bit like, oh okay, here, like it, it was very different, and it was a bit of a shock. But the thing I always say is he looked at me the same way he always did. The eyes were the same, the smile was the same, and it's still the same person I fell in love with in 2017. That hasn't changed. And like, I know I've said it to you two before, but if we'd have got together properly in 2017, and then Reid had come out as trans then and gone and started transitioning when we were in a relationship, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
So although maybe, you know, I could never say never, but the chances are I wouldn't have looked at a trans man or anyone who appeared masculine in the first instance, because I knew Reid from a past and fell in love with that person. That person hasn't changed, and the way that he looks at me hasn't changed. The way he is with my kids hasn't changed. And for me, that was all that mattered.
I think that is all that matters, isn't it?
I mean, the beard takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah, me too.
I imagine there's going to be lots of changes as you go through the relationship, because I think so am I correct in saying that you started on tea about 18 months ago-ish?
Yeah, just over 18 months, yeah. So there's still, obviously, quite a lot has changed, but there's still a lot more changes to go as well. So in transition-wise, it's still quite early on, really.
The changes that I've seen in the last 6 months are massive. So yeah, it's an ongoing.
You go through it together, and you're probably actually both learning together, right? Because it's new, really, to both of you, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
with my background in training and things like that, I knew quite a lot about the process. I knew quite a lot about, you know, various different side effects and things like that. So that the kind of medical side of it, and to an extent, some of the emotional and mental side of it, I was aware of. But it's obviously very different going through that with the person you love, than kind of knowing it from speaking to other people and then going through and telling other people about it and actually living it is very different.
And it's nice for me, like, obviously knowing that you've got that background as well, and you understand it already, but then I can also tell you bits that you know, and you can
and you know, obviously Sarah working in education and being a part of Pride in Surrey, she knows more about it than most of people, and you know, just goes to show, even herself, she's like, I got to take time here to think about what I'm doing, and you know, certain worries I'm sure about how you're going to be seen as in community. And it's quite amazing, isn't it, that it's even when you're so educated and you've lived your life as LGBT person, you know you're going to face some struggles, right? And I'm sure you're still facing them. I've
been accused of going back in the closet. I've been accused of all sorts of things. It's been pretty horrific, actually, if I'm honest. And you know, something I've struggled with for years is that people look at me and prejudge me to be straight anyway, because I'm quite feminine, I've got children, and therefore the wider world judge me as being straight. And I hated that with a passion. Even when I was at Pride in Surrey and volunteering with Pride in Surrey, fully kitted out, I was still presumed to be straight. And I really struggled with that. But now, even more so, you know, we walk down the street now and to the whole world, we're a straight couple. But we both find that weird. So
I find that weird because I kind of forget that people aren't going to be looking at us, because I've had it for so long as well. Obviously, being as a lesbian before, people would look at me, and now also, yes, I know that I'm trans, and you know that I'm trans, but you know, other people don't know. So unless I go around and tell everybody all the time, or you know, people don't see us as any other couple.
We joke about getting T-shirts. We found one that said for Reid that said, "I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body."
Yeah.
And one for me that says, "Nobody knows I'm gay." And it's an ongoing joke and a chat with us, really, isn't it?
But I think that's important that you see the funny side of things, because it's not an easy journey.
If we went to a Pride event, we would be presumed probably to be allies, and it's like, no. But you know, it's
just like losing that, like for me, losing that part of the identity, I guess, like with you, but you know, identifying as lesbian and then it's gone. And although yes, I'm trans, I'm still in LGBT, it's not as evident when we're walking around. It's a part, like, I want to be part of that community, so it's, you know, like,
that's a good
unless
point.
I put that T-shirt on or have a flag with me all the time, people aren't going to know. And it's, you know,
well, labels can be really important, can't they? I mean, we talk about them sometimes too much, but actually sometimes it's nice to be defined and actually have a group and somewhere where you feel like you belong, and actually you, especially on your journey as well, you can talk to people that maybe are further along that journey.
And it's also part of it, maybe, that actually the journey you've been through, you're actually proud of it, and you kind of want people to know, because you're
It's
so
like,
proud of what you achieved, right?
in my current job, there's she's left now, but there was a woman there who's lesbian, and obviously she'd be talking about, you know, LGBT and pride and stuff like that. And unless I'm then going to say, oh, by the way, I'm trans, and then start talking, you're kind of thinking, you know, I can identify and I can relate, but equally, I'm not going to just come out with all of that in the office and have a, do you know what I mean? So it's a hard one, like you say. It's nice being involved and being part of it, but it's definitely different now.
And like, in terms of your journey, was it sort of quite a slow understanding, or quite one day? How did the feelings kind of develop?
It's kind of a mixture. So like when I was probably about 14, 15, I remember looking at sort of like chest binders and stuff before, and watching endless YouTube videos of trans men and being like, yeah, this is it, this is me. And then I think I remember telling my older brother, and he was just sort of like dismissed it. But you know, this is going back 10, 12 years ago. So it was a bit more like, yeah, not sure about that. And so at the time it was, yes, I was interested and intrigued by it all, but didn't really pursue anything. And then when I actually came out, it was like a bus. It was like, oh, there it is. It's like literally 26. And the reason I'd always said, you know, the spectrum of gender, I'd never see myself. I sort of like females over here, males there. I would never say that I was either end. So I'd always said that anyway. And then I actually met a friend of mine who is a trans man, and he's been on testosterone for say 5 years or so. The first time I met him, that was literally it. It was like a light bulb moment of that's me. That's what I need to do. So yeah, it was quite quick that time around. But I've always known it. And now looking back, as like I say, 14, 15, I'd look at binders. But now I look back at certain things in schooling and, you know, growing up, I'm like, oh yeah, it was always there. Always there. So yeah.
That's really interesting, because I know Jana talks, and I don't think she'll mind me saying, when she was growing up, she really didn't enjoy her body. She hated hitting puberty, getting breasts, that kind of female shape. She was always very tomboyish, and she never really felt like you wanted to be a boy.
No, I think, and that's the difference, and that's why we're asking this question, because it's like knowing how you understand that. Because in my head, I was like, yeah, I don't like my body, but I don't have a problem being a female, and I don't have a problem being a lesbian. I actually quite like that. Sorry, say that again.
Neither did I till he came along.
So yeah,
a little bit.
So would you say it's really important? Because obviously I went through all this thinking, I don't like these things that are growing on my chest. What are they? Oh, and they bouncing when you move, and I don't like this. But that didn't mean I wanted to be a male. So do you think it's really important to take that time and go, you know, take time, think about it, and try to work out? Maybe like you said, you know, you were watching videos.
If you want to like medically transition, you need to take that time, because socially is one thing, as hard as that is to tell other people, and you know, to come out of that respect. Obviously, medically, it's changing your body, and you know, they're things that there's certain things that are like irreversible. So you got to take that time. But I think that was what I realized for me. So obviously, I had the same experiences, like, you know, puberty and things like that, and not liking my body, but equally, I didn't like how others perceived me, because others were perceiving me as female, and that was where I was like, I don't like that, you know. I always thought it, you know, in the workplace and stuff, when it'd be, you know, male or female members of staff, all right, we need females over here, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a second, that means me, but I don't want to go in that group, you know. So socially, I wanted to do with the others. So I've
just got a light bulb moment there, because I think that's the difference. Because I, on the other hand, was always seen as a boy. They always thought, you know, that I was a boy, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to be called a boy. I wanted to be a girl, and I didn't, you know, that did upset me.
That's the difference, isn't it?
That's a very important difference, actually.
Because actually, we do have a lot of issues with our bodies growing up during puberty and that, and there is that difference, isn't there? You know, with the young people we work with, you know, a difference between just not liking your body and actually not wanting to be referred to as she or he, because you feel like that is the wrong gender, and that is the difference.
See, I was totally happy to be called a female.
Yeah,
And
I remember my mum would say, like, I didn't like my hips and stuff as a female, and I'd always say, I don't like my hips, this and that, and my mum would always be, but you're female and you're meant to have hips, and that was what would frustrate me more than having them, because it was a bit, but I don't want them. So it's that kind of concept of the social side of it, and like you say, the pronouns and stuff like that, because it did get. I mean, going to he did take a little while to adjust, but equally, if I heard she, it was worse. So it would be more.
I think pronouns, I think they're definitely really important. I think to young people, I'm finding at the moment. I think it can be the different. It's such an easy thing for us to try and change. It can take a while, especially for parents and that. But it's such a small thing that we can do to actually make someone feel much happier in themselves. And actually, it doesn't involve anything. No money, no surgery, nothing. It's just words.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's an experience too from sort of what I do with Undivided and training other people. I think that's something that, and actually that's a lot that teachers are really interested in pronouns and everything, electronic registers and all that kind of thing, and the impact of that. But I do think pronouns is a big thing. But you were always quite, back in 2017, almost listed in a non-binary kind of thing, didn't you?
I was probably never said that to everybody. That's probably how I myself identified, was more non-binary, but it was easier just to kind of go with the flow. And but like I say, there's certain people I would say I don't see myself as female or male.
I remember I remember that conversation back then.
So not everybody knew that. Everyone would just see me as obviously who I used to be, but in my head I kind of knew that that's not who I was. And fashion wise and stuff, I was never never.
And did you find, because obviously you were at school quite a while ago now, what was
he's saying he's old?
Not old at all, but in terms of how we've moved forward with LGBT education, which obviously still got a long way to go, I'm guessing that school maybe wasn't a very inclusive environment to sort of figure out your sexuality and your gender.
No, I definitely think there was a lot more stigma and stuff attached to sort of LGBT back then. I would never have felt completely comfortable coming out, and even well, I went to an all-girls school. So
oh no!
Even for that reason, if I'd have come out then, what would their process have been then? Because it wasn't
especially back then.
School. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't. If you've got a mixed gendered school, it's maybe slightly easier. But back then, I was in a high school for girls, so that would have been interesting. But I think obviously you do a lot more with education than I know, but personally I just think it's like going back to the pronouns, that's probably the easiest part. If someone at school is to say this is what I want to do, this is who I am, that's the easiest part to start with. I don't know what they would do.
Absolutely, it's just that little simple step, isn't it? Because it can be difficult to kind of incorporate different things into the education system, especially in an all-girls school. Although I know a school locally that actually is probably leading the way in accepting transgender students, despite it being a single-sex school. And maybe that's easier, because maybe you can channel those students into separate ways, but you would think they don't have the provision because they're single-sex. So.
I would agree that there is some incredible work. Same with faith schools. That's the other one. There are some incredible work being done in faith schools with LGBT plus inclusion, and single gender schools exactly the same. There is some incredible work out there. But we're now talking 2020. But we are on Trans Day of Remembrance, and at the same time, both Reid and I, in very different ways, encounter transphobia on a very regular basis. So although we're talking it's better than it was, there's still a ridiculously long way still to go.
Absolutely.
I think in a few years back, I mean, I wouldn't say I struggled. I didn't struggle, but I think it's all down to education, because I didn't understand what trans was and how it worked and what was involved, and I couldn't understand it. I wish someone did sit me down and properly explain it to me. Would have been easier. But obviously, if you really want to learn about something, you can educate yourself. There's internet, there's books, and you can read and learn and just become a better person, and understand being trans means, and
to the individual as well, isn't it? Because I'm imagining it's a bit like we're just all people, and no matter how we're identifying, we're all different. We could all be trans sitting here, but we've all had a different journey and we've got a different future.
But we are all just human beings, and you two, like, honestly, I'm so happy right now. Like, just seeing you, Sarah, and meeting you, Reid. You're like such an incredible couple, and I'm feeling really happy right now. I just thought I'd squeeze that in there.
So like education and stuff, like I try and stay as like open and stuff. That's why I don't mind people asking questions and stuff like that, because I'd rather use that time to educate people about what it is to be trans and the processes as well, because there's a few like younger people I've spoken to that have like come out as trans, and now they're asking me for support, which was me 18 months ago. So I'm just being now, and I'm still asking others, there's support groups and stuff. I still ask questions because I don't know everything, but it's nice to be able to help others.
And I imagine every trans person is different as well, because before we started talking, obviously I asked you, are you happy if we call you transgender male or whatever? I'm sure maybe some trans people don't like to be called trans, and
I mean, some people are completely stealth, and it's the hard thing is when you've still got your old birth certificate and stuff like that, going into certain jobs you have to do like DBS checks and stuff. Obviously you got to hand over ID, and if it's in your previous name, your previous gender, people that don't want to pass on that information at all are going to be really sort of
the process of getting gender recognition certificates, and I hope Reid doesn't mind me saying, but come February, Reid and I will be Reid will be starting that process, because a correct amount of time has lapsed for him to be able to legally to be a real boy like Pinocchio.
You kind of have to laugh, otherwise you cry at the bureaucracy of it all, don't you?
Oh, honestly, and I mean we've been looking at other things as well, and further down the line what our relationship might look like, and the legal sides of things of what we have to do to be recognised even in 2020. And I may not yet be at a point of I refer to Reid as my partner, not boyfriend, as we stand him. That means there's no disrespect to him, and he knows that. It was a conversation we had back whenever it was. But to go further than that, it's ridiculous, the bureaucracy and the paperwork and this proof that they are, Reid is Reid. Reid isn't who Reid was before. That person is long gone, and actually was never the right person anyway. That wasn't who Reid was, and the fact that Reid has to go through so much just to have that stated officially, and I think the emotional and mental turmoil of that is massive, especially when you've got people with gender dysphoria. They've got there's their own things they're working through, but then the legal side of it just makes it so much harder.
Yeah, and that's never an easy thing to do either, is it? Paperwork and the legal system is so hard, and at least you guys have each other, for somebody on their own as well, or somebody that is struggling more with their mental health. Actually, that just makes it much more difficult, and actually that's why we do have issues with self-harm and suicide and stuff still in the UK, because it's really difficult just to prove who you actually are. And why should you have to prove so much?
I mean, Reid's family have been remarkably supportive. Reid's family are literally incredible. Like they're just fab. Love them dearly. But they've always been supportive, haven't they?
Yeah, I've been really lucky in that. Yeah.
But others aren't. Molly, both of us I know have worked with young people who are trans or fit somewhere in the gender diversity range, non-binary, gender fluid, and their parents aren't as supportive. And I'm not saying it's easy for parents to go through. We've both supported parents who are going through legitimately grieving one child that they had, but still loving and accepting the child that they've now got. We're not saying it's easy, but for some it's a lot harder, and I think Reid in some respects has been fortunate with that. And I think you're aware of that too.
Doesn't it? If you have supportive family, I can't imagine going through that and not having supportive family. But we need to remember that there are so many young kids out there that are going through this, and they're on their own because they don't have a support of family or friends. And
they need to know that
scary.
there are places that they can get help and that they're not alone. You know, that message, that tagline that we guys have worked through for the last however many months now, you know, they are not alone, and they need to know that. And even if they are struggling with lack of support at school or lack of support at home, there are people out there. You know, have a look at Mermaids. Mermaids are a fab resource for young people who are you know, questioning their gender identity, and also there are amazing people like this man here who, you know, he supports so many young trans people with love and care and grace, and it's incredible to watch.
You know what? I believe every word Sarah's saying. You come across as a really, really nice young man, and that's good because you've had that support, and you've been fortunate, and you're a positive person, and you've got Sarah and all this. So it is really, really good and important that you can help the others, which is exactly what you're doing. And that's amazing.
To give back to people that don't have that support, like you say, or are just, you know, wondering how to even start the process, or, you know, anything.
Yeah, I think it's really important for those young people, isn't it, that they see that there can be a positive kind of journey ahead of them, and actually it might not be great right now, but things can improve. And even though, I mean, life is a journey, isn't it, and it's up and down, and you're gonna have pitfalls, whether you're, you know, straight or gay or trans, whatever. There's gonna be ups
and I've definitely
downs.
been there with that, like feeling, you know, when I found out, I had that sort of realization that, yes, I'm trans now, what do I need to do? Yes, I want to medically transition. And then finding out that the waiting list to sort of 2 years to even get an appointment to someone to say, oh yeah, okay, we agree. And that point, you know, that was really difficult. And then, you know, then waiting for testosterone and waiting for this and that. And it is really hard. And I spoke to other trans men at the time, you know, and they all say, you know, it gets better and you're going to be fine and this, that, the other. And at the time, it's really hard to believe it. But actually now, like I say, over a year and a half. And now I can tell other people that, yes, it does get better because I've done it.
And it's worth the wait.
Yeah, massively.
So fantastic to speak to you guys today.
Literally, I'm feeling really emotional, actually. I don't know why. Well, I think I do, but I'm really emotional. This is just such a interesting story, and I just loved listening to you guys. That was really amazing. I don't know, shall we end with some nice positive message?
Absolutely.
What is it you would like to
send out to the world?
Send out to the world. How about you two?
Come on, you.
What me?
Yeah, come on, you.
I don't know, just to just to keep focused that there is, you know, things do get better, and like you guys say that you're not alone. There are people to talk to, and yeah, like you can be trans and, you know, have a positive life and be happy, and, you know, be comfortable and happy with who you are as well. You know, there's probably going to be negative people out there all the time, but for every negative person, there's a lot more positive people. So just to hold on to them.
Yeah, I think Reid said it pretty well, but I can never find your gallery on your phone.
Oh yeah.
But we were looking through stuff earlier, and I really like these. These are something Reid posted back really quite near the beginning of your journey. To me, transitioning is a radical act of self-love. I didn't transition because I hated myself. It was because I loved myself enough to believe I deserved to be happy while I'm alive. And that really hit home with me. And the other one is from Albus Dumbledore. It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be. And I really like both of those. And, you know, we could get into a whole conversation about J.K. Rowling, but for me, I think both of those, let's not. But I think both of those really hit home for me.
I think the first one was really good. Like, you know, I didn't go through this. I didn't, you know, it wasn't like a choice of, oh, shall I, you know, that is who I am. And I love myself and value myself enough to think this is what I want to do and that's who I am. So regardless of anything else, that's what I need to do.
And I loved you enough to be with you.
Yeah.
I think
those words were
loved you enough to put up with him.
Those were really powerful words. You really did make me emotional. It's just been absolutely fantastic talking to you two, honestly.
I think that's the perfect.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much about myself, about who I thought I was, and this it's kind of really cliched maybe, but I feel like I've had my own journey, my own transition since being with Reid in who I am and how I identify, but also just what it is to be loved properly, and what a healthy loving relationship can look like. And I think for me, I mean, that's a whole other conversation in itself, but for me, I think the one thing that I think is probably my key word that I use all the time is hope. And you know, if we talk about quite a lot, if we knew where we'd be now back in 2017, when we were both sitting on this exact sofa crying our eyes out, and then see each other now and see where we are now, both you as Reid and us as a couple, there's always hope. There always is. There's always hope. Just when you think there isn't, I think we're proof enough that there is.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking about having like a glimmer of happiness earlier on, and how even in the darkest moment there's always something small, and if you can hang on to it and protect it and nourish it, and it will grow and you will be rewarded with something.
Absolutely. Very well said, everyone. Okay, well, we're going to say a massive thank you to you both.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and just for kind of uplifting us as well, and hopefully giving other people that little bit of hope.
And educating us. I feel like I learned a lot just talking to you tonight, guys. And I hope we're going to talk again soon, because it's been so interesting.
I miss you.
Okay.
Love you lot.
Love you lots. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
bye guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Oh, wasn't that
wow.
That was emotional and happy and sad and everything all at the same time.
Literally, yeah. I cried a couple of times.
That's okay, you can cry.
I'm such an emotional wreck. But that was really, honestly, was so lovely to meet. I mean, we already knew that Sarah is just this wonderful person, and whether she's a lesbian or not, whatever she wants to be, who cares? Because she is just such a wonderful person. And I've only known her for a year, but I feel like I've known her my whole life. Honestly, she's incredible, and Reid, just wow. Honestly, I'm blown away, and so happy we got a chance to talk to them on such an important day as Trans Day of Remembrance, and it's to show that is positive. It can be positive too.
It can be positive, and it's really important that if you're not having a good experience at the moment, please do reach out. There's youth projects out there if you're a young person. There's, just like Sarah mentioned, there's charities like Mermaids. There's so much information online. There's support groups, and there's our Not Alone campaign, Pride in Surrey. There you go. Thank you very much, Jana. We are pros at this now. You can text us 88440. And we will get in touch. And you know, there's also places like Childline, Samaritans. There's so many places. Teachers in schools, speak out if you feel comfortable to somebody, even if it's another friend, and get some help. Absolutely. And try to reduce time on social media and looking at depressing news, and surround yourself with positive people. This is exactly what we're trying to do, because that can really help. Just to end on, I think it's really important, Jana said to me earlier on, we never stop learning and educating ourselves. And if we can keep an open mind and not judge the person on the street, we have no idea what their story is, and we probably haven't walked in their shoes. And I think if we can always push to learn more and ask those difficult questions, or even the easy questions, or the stupid questions. Yeah, and that's what I found really refreshing with Reid. He's so forthcoming with the answers, and you can ask him anything, and and I'm sure it's not easy at times, but he's trying to pass on what he's learned and his journey. I'm getting all emotional again. That was fantastic. I absolutely love talking to them. I'll look at them in the background. We can still see you guys. Anyway, on that note, we really hope that you enjoyed our interview with Sarah and Reid, and as sad and difficult as today is, I hope that that's given you a little bit of hope for the future. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, I'm Alistair Pinkerton. I'm the Lib Dem parliamentary spokesperson in Surrey Heath. I want to send all members of the trans community my support and solidarity today, Trans Remembrance Day. Ever since Rita Hester was killed in her house in Boston, Massachusetts in 1998, this has been a day to pause and reflect and remember those who have been taken from us. Sadly, over the 21 Trans Remembrance Days since then, there hasn't been an end to transphobic crime, but perhaps our attention has been brought more squarely onto that issue. And it's not just an issue that exists elsewhere, overseas, it exists right here at home. In 2019 alone, there was an 81% recorded increase in transphobic crime in Surrey. This is an issue that absolutely has to get tackled by all members of the community. So I send you my support and solidarity, and I wish you all a peaceful, reflective, and thoughtful day. Thank you.